Before I tell you what this simple 1-minute exercise is, I want you to imagine something. Picture yourself 10 or 20 years from now, still able to move freely, still able to get out of a chair without pain, still walking confidently without worrying about falling, and still living with the independence you deserve. Now imagine that all of this, your strength, your mobility, your balance, your confidence, could be protected and even rebuilt with something that takes just 60 seconds a day. It sounds unbelievable, but Japan's oldest practicing doctor, now past 100 years old, revealed that there is one tiny habit almost every senior ignores, and it is the real reason why so many people lose hip strength after 60. And today, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to rebuild your hips so you can stay strong, mobile, and independent for the rest of your life. So stay with me, because what I'm about to share might be one of the most valuable things you ever learn about your body and your future. The first key point centers on a simple but powerful truth. The 1-minute daily hip shift exercise works because it reactivates the deep stabilizer muscles that quietly weaken with age and gradually lead to major mobility problems. Most seniors don't even realize these muscles exist because they're not the big, visible muscles like the thighs or the large glutes. These are tiny, hidden muscles buried deep in the hip joint, the gluteus, medius, minimus, deep rotators, and pelvic stabilizers. They don't create big movements. They create control. They keep the pelvis level when you walk. They hold you steady when you stand. They prevent your knees from drifting inward, and they protect your spine by keeping the hips aligned. But as years go by and people sit more, move less, and rely heavily on their hands for support, these deep muscles begin to shut down, not because of age itself, but because of inactivity. Once they turn off, the body loses one of its most important sources of stability. That's where this 1-minute exercise becomes so powerful. When a senior purposely shifts weight from one leg to the other in a slow, controlled way, those deep stabilizers are forced to activate again. The shift wakes them up. It's like flipping a switch in the brain that says, "These muscles are needed again." Even though the movement looks small and simple, what happens inside the body is significant. The stabilizers begin firing in the exact sequence required for walking and balance. With each repetition, the brain strengthens the neural connection to the hip muscles, restoring coordination that aging often disguises as weakness. The beauty of this routine is that it doesn't require strength to start with. It only requires engagement. Once these muscles activate consistently, they naturally begin to strengthen. As the stabilizers turn back on, seniors often notice subtle changes that later become major improvements. They feel steadier when standing. Their walking becomes smoother because the pelvis isn't dropping side to side. They feel more balanced when shifting weight to step onto a curb or into a car. Even everyday activities like standing up from a chair or getting out of bed feel more controlled. What makes this exercise so senior-friendly is that it targets precisely the muscles that decline first with age, but also respond the fastest when reactivated. These aren't muscles that require heavy weight or intense exercises. They simply need consistent, mindful activation to rebuild strength and coordination. Physical therapists in Japan rely on this technique because it retrains the body in the most fundamental pattern of movement, transferring weight from one leg to the other. Without stable hips, every step becomes risky. With strong stabilizers, every step becomes secure. Seniors don't need complicated workouts or long routines. They need exercises that target the real root of mobility decline. Reactivating deep hip stabilizers changes everything from posture to balance to walking confidence. The best part is that 1 minute a day is enough to trigger that reactivation and set the foundation for stronger, safer movement throughout the day. Many seniors believe that the challenges they face with walking, standing up, or climbing stairs are simply part of getting older, but the truth is that most of these difficulties come from weak hips, not age itself. The hips are the foundation of the body's movement system, and when they weaken, everything built on top of them begins to struggle. The legs work harder, the knees take on extra pressure, the lower back starts compensating, and balance becomes less reliable. Over time, people begin to move differently without even realizing it. They take shorter steps, they lean forward more, they rely on their hands to push themselves out of chairs, and they use walls or furniture for support. These changes can feel like aging, but they are really signs that the hips are no longer able to provide the strength and stability they once did. What most people don't see is that the hips weaken long before noticeable mobility problems begin. The muscles that lift the leg, stabilize the pelvis, and support the spine gradually lose strength when they aren't regularly activated. Sitting for long periods is one of the biggest contributors to this decline. Modern life encourages long hours in chairs, recliners, sofas, and car seats, and the body adapts by turning off muscles that aren't being used. Over time, even seniors who feel relatively healthy start experiencing stiffness, instability, or fatigue during simple movements. It begins subtly: difficulty stepping onto a curb, discomfort climbing stairs, or a sense of wobbliness when shifting weight from one leg to the other. But the root cause is always the same: weak hips that can no longer carry the load they once could. The danger of weak hips goes beyond discomfort. Studies consistently show that hip weakness is the #1 predictor of falls in older adults. When the hips can no longer stabilize the body during movement, even a small misstep can lead to a loss of balance. A slight uneven surface, a small slip on a tile floor, or a simple turn to answer someone's voice can suddenly become a fall, and falls in seniors are not minor events. They can cause fractures, surgeries, hospital stays, and long periods of reduced mobility. Many seniors never fully recover from a major fall, not because their bodies cannot heal, but because their hips were too weak to begin with and cannot support rehabilitation effectively. But the hopeful message is that weakness is not permanent. It isn't a final stage of aging. It's simply the result of muscles that haven't been activated properly in a long time, and muscles can be strengthened at any age. Even individuals in their 70 seconds, 80 seconds, and 90 seconds can rebuild hip strength with the right movements. Strengthening the hips has a ripple effect on every aspect of mobility. Walking becomes easier because the legs are no longer doing all the work alone. Standing feels more stable because the pelvis is properly supported. The lower back relaxes because it isn't compensating. Even the feet and ankles feel more secure because the body's alignment improves from the ground up. Understanding that weak hips, not aging, are the main cause of mobility, decline empowers seniors to take control of their movement. It removes the fear that things are only going to get worse and replaces it with the possibility of rebuilding strength, confidence, and independence. The body is capable of far more than most people realize, and when the hips are strengthened, life becomes easier, safer, and more enjoyable in ways that can be felt every single day. The controlled weight-shifting movement in this routine works so effectively because it targets the exact muscles responsible for stability, balance, and hip support muscles that most seniors rarely activate in daily life. These include the gluteus medius, the gluteus minimus, the deep hip rotators, and the small pelvic stabilizers that sit underneath the larger, more familiar muscles. Unlike big muscle groups that help you lift or push, these stabilizers are responsible for subtle corrections in posture and alignment every time you take a step or shift your weight. When they are strong, the pelvis stays level, the spine stays aligned, and the legs move smoothly. But when they weaken, the entire structure of your lower body becomes unstable. The knees collapse inward, the ankles wobble, and the hips tilt to one side. Everyday movements like walking or rising from a chair start to feel shaky, and balance becomes unpredictable. The beauty of controlled weight shifting is that it directly awakens these deep muscles. You aren't lifting heavy weights or doing complicated movements. You are teaching your body to stabilize itself again. When you shift your weight intentionally onto one leg, those small muscles must contract to keep you upright. They stabilize the pelvis, align the hip joint, and reinforce the connection between your legs and core. This is the same process your body uses while walking, but many seniors lose this natural activation due to years of sitting or relying too much on their hands for support. By practicing weight shifting slowly and carefully, you retrain the body to do what it was designed to do: support your weight efficiently and evenly. Strengthening the glute medius and the deep rotators is especially important because they prevent the pelvis from dropping inward, a problem known as hip instability. When this instability occurs, you might notice your steps becoming uneven, your knees starting to twist, or your walking pattern becoming more of a shuffle. But when these muscles grow stronger, the pelvis stays steady with each step. This leads to more fluid, confident walking. Many seniors who practice this exercise daily begin to notice they no longer sway side to side or feel like they're drifting when they walk. Instead, they feel grounded, secure, and balanced. The pelvic stabilizers also play a major role in protecting your lower back. When they are weak, the back muscles try to do the stabilizing work instead, leading to stiffness, soreness, and fatigue. As the hip stabilizers strengthen, the lower back gets relief. Standing becomes more comfortable, bending forward feels smoother, and even long walks become easier because your body is finally sharing the workload correctly. This small weight-shifting exercise essentially realigns how your entire lower body functions, from the hips to the knees to the ankles. And the best part is that this activation happens instantly. Even the very first time a senior performs this exercise, the stabilizers switch on. With each repetition, those muscles learn to respond faster and more efficiently. Over time, the movement becomes effortless, and the hips become noticeably stronger without strain. It's a natural, gentle way to restore the foundation of your mobility. By simply shifting your weight with control, you rebuild the muscle groups that protect every step you take, helping your body feel balanced, powerful, and stable again. Slow, intentional movement plays a far more important role in senior strength and mobility than most people realize, and this exercise works because it trains both the body and the brain at the same time. Balance is not just a physical ability, it's a neurological skill. When you shift your weight slowly and deliberately, your brain has time to communicate with the stabilizer muscles around the hips, pelvis, and legs. This creates a stronger mind-muscle connection, which is the foundation for better coordination and smoother movement. As the body learns to control each small shift, the nervous system becomes more efficient, sending clearer signals and allowing the muscles to react more quickly. This is why seniors who practice slow, controlled exercises often feel steadier and more confident, even in situations where they once felt unsure, like stepping off a curb or walking on uneven ground. When movement is rushed or careless, the body falls back into old habits. Weak muscles stay inactive, joints move awkwardly, and the nervous system doesn't get the chance to improve. But slow movement forces the body to pay attention. It requires the hips to stabilize, the core to engage, and the legs to support weight correctly. Every second of controlled shifting trains the brain to understand where the body is in space, a skill known as proprioception. Strong proprioception is one of the biggest protectors against falls because it allows the body to correct itself instantly when balance is challenged. Seniors often lose proprioception over time, not because of age itself, but because they stop practicing movements that demand control and awareness. This simple exercise restores that lost communication. Another benefit of slow, intentional movement is how it transforms posture. As you shift your weight with focus, your spine naturally lengthens, your chest lifts, and your shoulders relax. The hips begin to align correctly under the torso, reducing strain on the lower back. Over time, this posture retraining carries into daily life. Seniors find themselves standing straighter, walking taller, and feeling less tension in their back and neck. This improvement in posture also makes breathing easier. With better alignment comes deeper, more efficient breathing, allowing more oxygen to reach the muscles and helping the body feel more energized throughout the day. Walking becomes noticeably smoother as well. Weak hips force seniors to shuffle, wobble, or drag their feet. But once the stabilizer muscles are reactivated and trained through controlled shifting, each step becomes more balanced. The feet begin to land more evenly, the pelvis stays level, and the legs move with better coordination. Many seniors describe the change as feeling like their body is moving in one piece, instead of feeling disconnected or unstable. This newfound smoothness reduces the strain on the knees and ankles because the hips are finally doing their job as the central support system. Slow movement also builds confidence. Seniors often hesitate when moving because they fear losing balance or not being able to react quickly enough. But when the body learns to stabilize during slow, deliberate shifts, that hesitation fades. The brain starts to trust the hips again. Confidence grows with every successful repetition, and that confidence carries into everyday situations. Stepping into a bathtub, walking downstairs, or standing on soft ground suddenly feels manageable instead of intimidating. What makes this approach so powerful is that it doesn't rely on strength alone, it relies on control. Seniors don't have to push themselves hard or perform complex routines. They simply need to move with purpose. Over time, these intentional movements rewire the brain, strengthen the stabilizers, improve posture, enhance walking mechanics, and boost overall confidence. It's a complete transformation that begins with something as small and simple as shifting weight from one leg to the other and doing it with full awareness and control. Consistency is the real secret behind this 1-minute exercise. And it matters far more than intensity, speed, or how strong someone feels when they first begin. Many seniors believe that improving hip strength requires long workouts, difficult routines, or heavy equipment. But the body responds best to small, repeated signals. When you perform this weight-shifting exercise every day, even for just a minute, you're giving your body a clear, consistent message. These stabilizer muscles are needed, and they must stay active. Muscles thrive on repetition, and the nervous system learns through repeated patterns. Doing the movement daily reinforces the activation of the hip stabilizers, helping the brain and body work together more efficiently each time. What begins as a simple exercise quickly evolves into a habit that rewires how your hips function during every movement throughout the day. Intensity often scares seniors away from exercise, especially when they worry about pain or fatigue. But this routine doesn't rely on pushing the body hard. It relies on waking up the right muscles. Even a gentle shift of weight, done carefully and mindfully, creates meaningful engagement in the deep hip muscles responsible for balance and stability. These muscles don't need heavy loads to get stronger, they just need to be reminded to work. Think of it like tuning a musical instrument. You don't need brute force, you need consistency and precision. A daily 1-minute routine is enough to build that tuning process in the body, helping everything align and function better a little bit at a time. Over weeks and months of consistent practice, seniors begin to notice small improvements that gradually build into major changes. They may find themselves standing up more easily, walking with less wobble, climbing stairs with more control, or feeling steadier when stepping onto uneven surfaces. These changes happen almost quietly, without sweat or strain, because the deep stabilizers are doing their job again. What once felt weak or uncertain becomes reliable and steady. This is the power of gradual, consistent progress. It bypasses the fear of injury and builds confidence instead, allowing seniors to trust their bodies again. The beauty of a 1-minute exercise is that it removes the most common barriers to staying active: lack of time, fear of doing too much, or the belief that mobility can't improve with age. Anyone can spare a minute, anyone can move slowly and safely, and anyone can rebuild strength when the movements are designed for real-world function rather than athletic performance. This simplicity makes it easy to stay consistent, and consistency is what unlocks the real transformation. When seniors know they only need 1 minute a day, they are far more likely to stick with it, and sticking with it is where the results live. As these stabilizer muscles grow stronger from daily activation, the entire body begins to feel more aligned. The knees stop collapsing inward, the back stops overworking, and the ankles begin to feel more stable. Even posture improves because the hips are finally supporting the spine correctly. These improvements don't come from force, they come from repetition. Every day you reinforce the same pattern, the body becomes a little more efficient, a little more balanced, and a little more confident. The beauty of this approach is that it empowers seniors to take control of their mobility without feeling overwhelmed. Instead of avoiding movement out of fear, they begin to embrace it because they can feel firsthand how such a small daily commitment leads to genuine progress. The hips grow stronger not because of how hard you work in a single session, but because of how consistently you activate the muscles that have been sleeping for years. 1 minute a day may seem insignificant, but slow, gentle, repeated activation is exactly what the hips need to regain the strength and stability that protects mobility for life. When you start strengthening your hips, you aren't just working on a single muscle or trying to look fitter. You're rebuilding the foundation that supports almost every move your body makes. And that foundation plays a major role in how comfortable, confident, and mobile you feel each day. The hips are deeply connected to the lower back, the knees, the core, and even the way you walk and stand, which means when you improve their strength, the benefits spread through your entire body in a way that feels almost effortless. As your hips gain stability, you might notice that climbing stairs becomes easier, getting in and out of chairs feels smoother, and those little aches that used to bother you during everyday activities start to fade because your body is finally moving the way it was designed to move without unnecessary strain. Many seniors don't realize that weak hips are often the hidden cause behind nagging knee pain or a stiff lower back, because when the hips aren't doing their job, the joints around them try to compensate, and eventually those joints begin to complain. But when you rebuild strength in the hips, that pressure is lifted, and your knees and back can finally relax and function the way they're supposed to, which often leads to relief that feels surprising because it comes from strengthening a place you never thought was the problem. As hip strength increases, your balance naturally improves. Not because you're practicing tricky balance drills, but because your body suddenly has the support it needs to keep you steady without wobbling or feeling unsure of your footing. This new stability often boosts confidence too, because you no longer feel like you have to worry about tilting to one side or losing your balance during simple movements like stepping off a curb or turning around quickly. This confidence has a powerful effect on daily life, encouraging you to move more, walk farther, and stay active without fear holding you back. When you move with strength instead of hesitation, your body rewards you by increasing circulation, improving muscle tone, and boosting overall energy. And that energy often spills into other parts of life because you simply feel better and more capable. Improving hip strength also supports better posture, helping you stand taller and reducing the slouched or stiff positions that can drain your energy and make your body work harder than necessary. When your posture improves, your lungs expand more easily, your steps become lighter, and you feel less fatigued from everyday tasks because your body is aligned and working efficiently. And for seniors who want to maintain independence as long as possible, strong hips are one of the most important assets you can build because they make everyday movements safer, smoother, and more controlled. Even simple tasks like putting on shoes, stepping into the shower, or walking across the room become easier when your hips provide solid support beneath you. As time goes on, you may notice that your overall mobility increases because your joints feel freer, your muscles feel more reliable, and your body feels like it's moving as one strong, connected system instead of separate parts struggling to keep up. This is why rebuilding hip strength has such a powerful ripple effect transforming not only how your hips feel, but how your entire body functions, moves, and supports you throughout the day.